All right, the music has stopped, and I believe that the graduates can now take a seat. So polite. Oh boy, look at the size of you. What have we been feeding you in the dining hall? For years. Well, let me tell you, graduates of 2025, you know that today marks a milestone as you embark on a new chapter in your life, joining over 1,600 alumni from the Harriet L. Wilkes Honors College. This is an occasion for taking time to enjoy such an achievement with family, friends, loved ones, and your peers. Now, within our close-knit community, you've worked incredibly hard, being the studious, driven human beings that I know that you are. And reading over today's digital program, I can clearly see just how these high-minded, heavy-duty academic pursuits have been forever ingrained into your memory. Like the times you played ping pong in the borough, took a road trip to Universal Studios, danced the night away at Spring Formal, flew down the zip line at Carnival, or watched the sunrise on the beach. And what about the times when you had those random conversations at Taco Bell, shared video game music in the dorm, or met your best friend in Gen Chem lab? And I'm sure the lab was loads of fun too. Now, this past fall, the college celebrated its own milestone, our 25th anniversary. 25 years. That amount of time spans a generation. And since you are the next generation, representing the last letter in the alphabet, it is fitting to ask what kind of a world you will be entering. Now, when I was in college, I remember sending my first email. It was a proud day. Something called a laptop came out, and so did the contraption called a Motorola flip phone. And get this, the national debt was about $5.6 trillion. Yeah, the world was my oyster. And with all the progress made since the dawn of texting and Facebook, wouldn't you be inheriting a world brimming with possibilities? But I must honestly say, I haven't seen more turbulent, uncertain times than these. When making that down payment on a home seems more out of reach, and the 24/7 news of disaster, polarization, and outrage feels increasingly normal. Now, instead of getting defeated or fearful, I find great consolation in the fact that the knowledge and skills you've acquired at Wilkes, whether it be in the classroom, an internship, or even in another country, will serve you very well, no matter what tomorrow may bring. After all, you're owls. You're built to persevere. And through these endeavors, your intellectual gifts have blossomed, and the critical thinking and problem-solving skills acquired have been fashioned into razor-sharp tools of innovation and inquiry. You see, at the heart of a world-class liberal arts and sciences honors education is a holistic, well-rounded experience, one that instills academic excellence and an ethical compass dedicated to causes greater than our own self-interest. And so to these noble ends, I suggest a good dose of humility and a healthy sense of humor will carry you a long way. And if the fate of global posterity rests on your shoulders, I'm feeling pretty good about the future. Now, I noticed that none of your favorite memories mentioned a grade that you got in a class. And no doubt, an A feels much better than the sting of a B+. But at the same time, I've never, ever heard of somebody wishing that they got an A in college while lying on their deathbed. You've set high goals at FAU, but I hope the time in this oasis of learning was also about something larger than any tangible outcome. You see, you didn't get to this juncture purely on your own. It was also because of the people who took an interest in you, who believed in you through all the ups and downs. It is the power of relationships which sews together the emotional material of our lives, tapping into the will to keep on going and to reach for new heights. How would Jane Austen have composed such masterpieces without the portable writing desk her father gave and the library he let her imagination freely wander in? And how else would Vincent van Gogh's Sunflowers ever seen the light of day without his brother and sister-in-law exhibiting his works posthumously? The Dutch artist sold one out of his total 900 paintings and died penniless, believing himself a failure. The celebrated British author who never found her Mr. Darcy in real life left an estate valued at under a modest 800 pounds. But what priceless works of creation they both gave to the world. In this unparalleled age of artificial intelligence, we've witnessed a breakthrough so profound that some say it will revolutionize every aspect of our daily lives, rendering, and I'm sorry, graduates, a swath of jobs in the market completely obsolete. Now, I'm sure AI will bring many benefits to society. Yet, can anyone say your time spent here at Wilkes would have been the same had you learned everything from a machine, an app, or a robot? You see, these questions were the stuff of fiction not too long ago, but today they raise a far-reaching philosophical issue. If AI can fulfill our needs and desires, if not replace them altogether, wouldn't our lives be better off? Wouldn't all of us be so much happier? Now, you remember reading Clara and the Sun, don't you? In our attention overload economy, one might wonder what is happening to the so-called poetry of everyday life. Are the simple joys, as they say, losing their familiar sentient touch? You don't have to necessarily climb mountains in Tibet to escape the sound and the fury, but just keep in mind, actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with the overcompensations for misery. And of course, stability isn't nearly so spectacular as instability, and being contented has none of the glamour of a good fight against misfortune. Happiness is never grand. Now, I didn't ask ChatGPT for that answer. No. Those were the words of the novelist who saw a brave new world 100 years ago, which sounds eerily modern. Aldous Huxley's pleasure-induced life of the soma, or happiness pill, was more prescient than he could have foreseen. Except the soma is found in a microchip today, fed through the umbilical cord, tethering your brain to a mobile device. And as we scroll through the deluge of texts, posts, likes, videos, bots, and agents, when does, I wonder, the lure of the algorithm turn into a hollow repository of distraction? When does the need become a compulsion to chase happiness rather than experience happiness? When will we prefer to read a novel written by ChatGPT rather than Pride and Prejudice? And why should I lift my head from the screen on my phone just so I can talk to the person sitting right next to me? Well, I guess it doesn't matter if our perceptions are swayed by billions of transistors or from something or someone else that predated the electric power grid. You see, long before the matrix of ones and zeros, people were already getting on that treadmill. The constant race for approval or the latest shiny new object, however, is rarely met with deep, lasting satisfaction. Rather, it is the passions which spring from within that will prove to be a far more worthwhile pursuit. Now I know unleashing your full hidden potential is easier said than done. But as it was written, consider the ancient lilies of the field, how they neither toil nor tremble in vain. Just to be a little more admired, to get a little more status, or feel a little less inadequate. When you find out what matters, what's really important, everything else will fall into place like gravity. And people will notice you, graduates. They'll follow you. They'll come around completely from out of the blue, even when you're not seeking to be noticed. Now, over the course of your journey on this idyllic campus, you've enjoyed access to an abundance of resources. Yet the one resource which cannot be replenished is time. Now, I know there's biologists working on a reverse aging solution right now in the labs, but until they figure out how to genetically manufacture the fountain of youth, I must yield to this unavoidable fact. Of all the losses you will experience, time is the most irrecuperable. The astronomer Carl Sagan once said, "We are like butterflies who flutter for a day and think it is forever." Well, a day would be equivalent to an entire generation as measured in human years. The Earth spins on its tilted axis, and we can only be sure of what exists now, at this moment. Now, you may feel fairly confident about what you'll be doing tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But what about the day after that? Next week, next month, next year? Your next journey may not be the 2,000-mile flight the butterfly monarchs make to the forests of Mexico, but let it be fortified with the same undaunted purpose. Now, I vividly remember the metamorphosis I had on commencement day. It wasn't the dull keynote speech that stuck in my head, full of way too many cliches. Instead, I recall my father leaning next to me at the induction into Phi Beta Kappa to tell me that my grandfather had died. The man who made violins and retired in good old Evansville, Indiana, a town with one Dairy Queen and miles of cornfields, was known as Grandpa Honey. Now, I never knew how he got the nickname, but it seemed to fit his sweet-natured temperament. A few days later, I was looking down at his still breathless face in the coffin before driving up I-95 to a new job and graduate school in Boston, with absolutely no idea of where I would sleep when I got there, and not being too concerned about it either. But he was with me. And on the day I graduated, I lost someone who I barely spent time with growing up, but in a way was closer to me than anyone else. Now, I have given much thought as to what you will take away from the words I've prepared, realizing that you won't remember any of them. But if by some miraculous chance you remember one thing I said, let it be this free pearl of wisdom. Success, and I mean true success, not half success, is an incomplete, if not boring enterprise if you're afraid to fail. And trust me, graduates, you will be met with failures throughout the rest of your life, and not just in your career. There is no genuine reward or growth in the absence of struggle. For in the agony of doubt and defeat, we somehow find the means to dust ourselves off, start all over, and learn to extract some amount of joy and inner peace, wherever the road may lead. Therefore, when you encounter those inevitable setbacks and disappointments, I know you'll get right back up, and you will realize it was all worth the fall. For as the expression goes, we don't rise in love, we fall in love. Now, don't get me wrong. In the game of life, tasting the sweet thrill of success doesn't mean that you should book the first flight to Vegas tonight. But when the chips are down and the conditions are ripe, you've got to take risks, graduates. Consider the analogy of chess. What are you willing to do to capture that king? What pieces on the board will you sacrifice? Will you wait to give up to your queen, or will you go straight for the fried liver attack? Well, when the time comes to make that bold move, you'll know, because it will call you like an unstoppable force. Now, I wish I could share all the failures cataloged during my life and career, the rejections, the losses, and the mistakes. But since I'm running out of time, let me close with a personal journey I took long before I majored in Cajun cooking and piano jazz bars at Tulane University. After the nurses found me on the doorsteps of the hospital, I came home on the wings of an airplane across the ocean. You see, that was the day I was welcomed into the arms of America. Fortunately, the government paid for my father's medical school costs in return for health care he provided in a remote rural area of the country. The small, obscure town in Okanagan County had less than 1,000 people and was the last trace of civilization before the Canadian border. Holding back the years, I see two young, thin parents quietly raising an adopted child far from the madding crowd. But there was something unordinary amid the flickering images. Raised on my father's shoulders, strapped to my mother's chest as she skied down the mountain slopes. I saw it in the mirror thousands of times, but never dwelled on what I was looking at until the call came. It was as undeniable as the face reflected in the glass, lacking any physical resemblance to the family. Now, one day, I was on the 6 o'clock news, sick. I remember the shirt I had on in the pediatrician's office with a red capital letter S stitched inside the yellow diamond. It was around puberty when the emblem began to mean something, when Clark Kent began to shape my identity. Standing in front of the mirror, letting the hair dryer stiffen the gel, it worked like a magic trick. I got my hair to fall in the same handsome, perfectly parted straight wave as the mild-mannered reporter. And so who wouldn't be attracted to such a paragon of man? Star Wars came out around the same time in theaters, and I'm talking about the first episode. But it was always Clark Kent, or Kal-El, who carried my psychoanalytic baggage. You know, the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeves and Gene Hackman and Marlon Brando. The metaphors of self-worth were indeed already baked into the myth. And if we fast forward to when I landed my job as a professor, it would bring you to the culmination of 10 years of setbacks before something happened, after it first cried out in college, like the crystal called for Clark Kent, buried under the hay in the barn. You see, I finally found them, my biological family in South Korea. And what were the chances of success? Not very good. You could say it was even doomed to fail. But I summoned the will to try. And upon that fateful day, we reunited. Do you know what advice my biological mother gave me when the dark secrets of the past were to be at last revealed? "You should change your hair," she said. She wanted me to flatten it all out. I don't know. I thought my hair looked pretty good. Now, in real life, Superman was paralyzed after he fell off his horse. He never walked again. Yet Mr. Reeves lifted the human spirit in a way that no superhero ever could. And for some strange reason, I didn't lose hope in finding my way home. And like your travels, graduates, the various twists and turns of my life are wrapped around relationships, fulfilled and unfulfilled. I am so fortunate to be the product of so many failures. And just remember, when you save the world and when all of your dreams finally come true, it may not be what you thought it was going to be, but that's okay. That's what keeps life so interesting, faithfully serving in the role of eternal student. As newly minted alumni, I charge you, graduates, to keep the dream alive that embodies our mission. Take care of your health. That's most important. Come back to the surf and sands of the beaches. And when that song plays on the radio, while you're driving down an open highway with the sun glowing above the vast horizon, you know, that song that reminds you of the glory days of Wilkes. I hope you'll sing it out loud and find time to dance to the music when nobody's looking. Congratulations. And now, it is my distinct pleasure to proceed with reading the names of faculty, staff, and students recognized by FAU at the 2025 Honors Convocation as recipients of university-wide awards. Dr. Carmen Canete Quesada, Excellence in Innovation in Undergraduate Teaching. Dr. Kathy Trevino, Distinguished Mentor of the Year. Jeff Shearing, Excellence in Innovation and Undergraduate Advising. Tarek Wheeler, Distinguished Student Award. Jacob Carlson, University Scholar Award. Gabriella Maxey, Undergraduate Researcher of the Year. Vincent Stafford, Undergraduate Researcher of the Year. Now, I'd be remiss if I did not also note that several students received the nationally coveted Goldwater Scholarship this year. Yeah, and in fact, I believe we have a few Goldwater scholars who are graduating with us today. So congratulations to all of these individuals on their outstanding achievements. And now I would like to turn it over to Dr. Keith Jakey, Professor of Economics, who will be announcing this year's student awards. Dr. Jakey.
Good morning. As the chair of the Honors College's Academic Affairs Committee, it's my great privilege to present several student awards. First, there are 4 awards, one each for Outstanding Senior, Outstanding Junior, Outstanding Sophomore, and Outstanding First Year. These awards are for the student from each class who best meets the following criteria: minimum 3.3 GPA, demonstrated strength in scholarship, outstanding service in and off campus, and special initiatives. We'll begin with the outstanding senior. This award goes to Kalissa Setterberg. The next award is Outstanding Junior. This goes to Samantha Reyes. The next award is Outstanding Sophomore. This goes to James Lee. I don't think James is here. And the next award is Outstanding First Year, and this goes to Blaine Naylor. Okay, the next award is for our Outstanding Scholar. The criteria for this award are senior standing, a 3.6 GPA, an outstanding senior thesis, and all-around academic excellence and intellectual curiosity. Our Outstanding Scholar Award goes to Maya Clark. Maya. The next award is our Distinguished Service Award. The criteria for this award are senior standing, outstanding service to the college community, and demonstrated leadership. It's awarded to the student who's made the Honors College a better place through his or her presence. Our Distinguished Service Award goes to Allison McKenzie. The last award is our Distinguished Community Service Award. The criteria for this award are senior standing, extraordinary community service, and demonstrated leadership. Our Distinguished Community Service Award goes to Ellie Fowler. And finally, my last assignment is to introduce the student chosen by her fellow classmates to deliver this year's graduation address. This, of course, is a great honor. I hope she didn't get too comfortable. Please welcome again, Ellie Fowler.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction. I'm wondering if I can just hold this. I'm a little bit tall. Okay. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. My name is Ellie, and I'm going to be completely honest with you all. It took me a long time to figure out what to do for the student speech. It's hard to characterize 4 years of your life and bring it to others in words. I brainstormed lots of ideas for how to address the room, but I kept coming back to this one idea that I could not quite shake off. So I decided to write a love letter to class of 2025. A love letter that remembers our most precious memories together, a letter of gratitude, and a letter that encourages you about who you are and the calling we all have to attend to our future. So here we go. Dear class of 2025, I love you. Love you. This might sound odd to others, but we all know that in a way, we all kind of sort of belong to each other. We know everyone, we know each other's business, we know when someone goes on a big trip, we notice when we get haircuts, we notice if someone has been out sick for a few days, or when they start dating someone. It's the blessing, and maybe sometimes the curse, but mostly the blessing of having a small student population located on a small honors campus. We are quirky and unique and different from one another, but we belong to each other. No one else can understand the feeling of loss that comes with going through the drive-thru at our McDonald's and noticing that Scuba Steve no longer wears his scuba equipment. No one else can relate to the thrill of hiding in a dumpster at midnight during our campus-wide manhunt games. No one else can emulate the laughter that erupted from the dining hall that one time a large chunk of the ceiling came crashing down randomly. It's okay, no one was hurt. Everyone else can laugh. No one else knows the pride that comes with beating the faculty at our student-faculty softball games. Or the sense of accomplishment that comes with nearly escaping death and taking first place in tug-of-war during West Fest. Or the feeling of hitting the submit button, turning in the theses that we've spent an entire year of our lives pouring into. Or the joy that comes from dancing like crazy at Halloween ball and spring formal. Or the contentness of filling our stomachs at late night breakfast. Or the frustration of waking up because the fire alarms are going off again in RH2 at 3 a.m. Or the amazement of watching yet another ALEC showcase demonstrate the singing and dancing talent that our campus cannot help but exude. Yes. Or the excitement when it's another free merch day in the borough. Or the sweetness of Zakiah calling you from across the room, waving, smiling, and offering to give you a hug. The quick flash of Kalissa's marketing camera capturing an important moment. Or the sight of our governor, Grace, and her sweet dog, DeMarco, welcoming us to campus events and making this a better place for all of us. What other campus has our stories? What other campus has us? Honestly, nowhere. No one. Class of 2025, I love you. And I'm thankful for you and for this place. Wilkes Honors College is where I changed my major like 4 times. But I found the right path for me. This is where I met faculty and staff that encouraged me to join internships and recommended me scholarships, providing me the ability to construct and develop my goals. This is where I grew and changed, but I developed my sense of identity. To FAU Housing and all my coworkers, thank you for making this place home and forever being my karaoke partners. To my bestest of friends, thank you for sharing your hearts, laughs, and tears with me and inviting me to step fully into who I am. Mom, Dad, Annalise, my sister, Tanner, my brother, my grandfather, and Tyler, my fiance, all sitting in the audience. Thank you for your encouragement and radical love that has shaped me and supported me in this journey into adulthood. And lastly, thank you all for growing up with me. I wouldn't have picked a different group of people or a different place. It's an honor to be receiving our medals together and walking the stage with you all. Someone very wise and who I continuously strive to emulate teaches, from everyone who has been given much, much will be expected. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. We have worked so hard for our education, to be critical thinkers, strong writers, researchers, advocates, qualified for the jobs we're about to pursue. But our education is such a privilege, something that many others do not have. There is a sense of responsibility that comes with this privilege, with the privilege of being educated and having the toolbox and resources of an education. Much is expected of us now, the carriers of such a precious gift. My mom taught me growing up that each new thing you accomplish is a step you take on a ladder. She raised me in the practice that for each new step you take, you turn around and offer your hand to the person behind you, making sure that they can take the next step as well. This is the responsibility of someone who has been given much, who has achieved much, and who has been entrusted with much. The sweet, beautiful burden of achievement called responsibility to others. Anyone who knows me knows that there's quite possibly no way that I could ever give a speech without bringing up Eleanor Roosevelt, my longtime inspiration and forever influencer of choice. Eleanor says, "For our own success to be real, it must contribute to the success of others." What a blessing we have, this education, these medals, access to these faculty, these research institutions, to each other. I want to encourage us to use our success to help others, because after all, success's value is only in its ability to transform the lives of others. Class of 2025, I love you. We belong to each other. My success is your success. I do not deny that the climate in which we are graduating feels uncertain, scary, and daunting. The future always does. I've caught myself on multiple occasions in a spiral of worry about the future. What am I going to do? Who am I going to be? How could I possibly make a difference? But I want to encourage us all to pursue the future with great tenacity and rebellious hope. I wholeheartedly believe that the universe is excited that each of us is graduating at this very moment in time. I cite the book of Esther when I say, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. And I'll add on by saying, perhaps you were meant to graduate for such a time as this. I know that in this very room, in those very seats where we are sitting, seats where we're sitting, is the next public servant or policymaker who will change the lives of those in need. The next researcher who will find unheard of cures to diseases and make them accessible to those who need it. Is the next counselor to heal a broken heart. The next financial advisor to alleviate stress in someone's life. The next doctor to make an impact in healthcare. The next dancer to bring awe and wonder to the world. But also, we don't have to be anything but light. I'm taking a gap year and I'm excited for you if you are too. You can move up the ladder and help others up the ladder at any place, in any job, at any moment. And finally, I'll end with just one more Eleanor Roosevelt quote. It is better to light one small candle than to curse the darkness. For context, Eleanor Roosevelt lived through women's suffrage, World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, the Civil Rights Movement, and the Cold War. She had a lot of darkness to curse. But she didn't. She didn't curse it. She took her burden of having much and used it to light candles, to be the light for others. There's a lot of darkness to curse right now. But once we cross the stage, we have the perfect opportunity to light candles. Class of 2025, I love you. I'm so proud of us in what we did. We did the thing we thought we could not do. Okay, like that was the last Eleanor Roosevelt quote, I promise. So congratulations, class of 2025, we did it. Let's go celebrate all of our hard work and light a candle being the light for others. Love, Ellie.
Well, thank you, Ellie, for your inspiring words. And I know you, like your fellow owls, will be doing great things. So now it is time, and my distinct pleasure, to proceed with reading the names, concentrations, and thesis advisors of the graduating class as they are presented their medallions on stage. Ready? Here we go. Priscilla Agrensoni, chemistry. Exploring bis-dino-tricarboxyphenyl cryptofix 22 derivatives as precursors for heterogeneous catalysts and biodiesel production. Dr. Tranzakar. Rachel Allison, marine biology. Survey and analysis of gopher tortoise demographics in Range X of the Abagoa Greenway. John Moore and Bill O'Brien. Rob Alonzo Guma, business. The power of personalization, how tailored marketing drives consumer engagement. Zachary Ferrara. Vilmaris Alvarado, mathematics. Commutative rings, Warren McGovern. Yosuf Arab, cellular neuroscience, towards a metabolic essay for neuronal performance in vivo, David Sinali. David Baldwin, environmental science, experimental modeling of plant ecophysiological adaptation in acacia and quantitative modeling of the limited homeothermy hypothesis using novel infrared imaging techniques. Michael McCoy. Michaela Barker, neuroscience, technological temptations, examining the academic impact of digital distractions on undergraduate students. Shana Rao. Connor Barral, political science, analysis model for transnational organized crime in Latin America and effective solutions. Mark Tunick. Jesus Husera, psychology, wishful thinking, the powerful act of tarot card divination and ritual and psychotherapy. Laura Vernon. Amanda Belizaire, biological anthropology, taxonomic identification of hepatozoon parasite and Gopherus polyphemus. Kelsey Bernard and Tracy Mincer. Shantae Bennett, biology, the role of DSD in regulating insulin-producing cells. Catherine Trevino. Luke Ezra Berg, environmental studies and transdisciplinary visual arts. Bachman sparrow habitat preference and site fidelity in relation to prescribed burns in Jonathan Dickinson State Park. Jim Wetterer. Madeline Brooker, marine biology, assessment of endangered key deer population on Cudjoe Key, Florida Keys. John Moore and Bill O'Brien. Ruve Burgess, English literature, book to film adaptations, logistics of success and failure. Nicole Casanetti. Esai Burgos, writing, Crossing the Universal Border. Nicole Casanetti. Micah Campbell, Law and Society, Information for Sale, General Motors, Analytical Firms, and Data Ownership. Keith Jakey. Tatiana Caputo, Psychology, Study Group Environments and their connection to study plans and strategies. Shana Rao. Jacob Carlson, Biology and Mathematics, Quantification and characterization of the microbiome of the edible halophilic succulent Suida linearis. Tracy Mincer. Miguel Castillo, neuroscience, linguistic markers of academic and social integration in first-generation college students' online Reddit discourse. Kevin Lanning. Maya Clark, environmental science, Clyona Deletrix, Population, Demographics, and Ecological Succession, and San Andres Reefs, Colombia, Andia Chaz Fonegra. Nicholas Coelho, Cellular Neuroscience, Bridging STEM Gaps, Active Learning and Cellular Neuroscience Education for Palm Beach County K-12, David Sonali. Sam Cohen, Biology, Mapping the intron-exon boundaries of the TLR4 gene in gopher tortoises, Gopherus polyphemus, Kelsey Burnett. Zachary Comella, Biological Chemistry, Exploring the Role of Human Pioneer Factors on HIV Transcription Through RNA Interference Screening, Jill Rahim. Yesenia Concepcion, Biology, Fungal Communities Deep in Gopher Tortoise Burrows, Kelsey Burnett. Maria Eduarda Correa, Cellular Neuroscience, EEG Power Development, Implications for Emotional Regulation in Early Childhood, Nancy Jones. Gavin Kraft, Transdisciplinary Visual Art, Metamorphosis, Anina Roost. Brendan Daly, Cellular Neuroscience, Phenotypic Characterization of Mouse Models of GNA01 Disorder, Jill Rahim. Kayla DeFede, Cellular Neuroscience, Extracellular Matrix as a Barrier to C1q, Synapse Tagging, Simon Perot. Louise Del Prado, Business, The Beatles' Apple Records, a case study in entrepreneurial failure and its implications, Keith Jakey. Cassidy Dunn, Data Analytics, How Effective Are Machine Learning Algorithms in Enhancing Marketing Strategies, Thierry Hill. Ashley Espinoza, Political Science and Law and Society, From Deference to Disarray, The Demise of Chevron and the Future of Federal Agencies, Mark Tunick. Vishal Farjan, Cellular Neuroscience, a comparative analysis of neuroimaging techniques for the diagnosis and characterization of Parkinson's disease, Eric Dubois and Daniel Nemeth. Alexandra Fernandez, Neuroscience, characterization of RHES and SLC4A7 binding in striatal cells, Julie Earls. Kayla Filjan, Marine Biology, White Veil Disease Susceptibility in HMA and LMA coral reef sponges, Andia Chaz Fonegra. Andres Fraga, Computer Science, developing an Android application to lower admittance and false positives in field drug testing, Eugene Smith. C.D. Gavkar, Cellular Neuroscience, interactions between dopamine and serotonin in a mouse model of neuropsychiatric disorders, Catherine Trevino. Mia Gomez, Marine Biology, evaluating fish community structure along a Bermudian seascape, Andia Chaz Fonegra and John Moore. Trisan Gordon, Biology, environmental reservoirs for bacteria and gopher tortoise, Gopherus polyphemus habitats, investigating soil and fecal microbial dynamics, Kelsey Bernat and Tracy Menser. Mia Beth Goraditzer Edelman, Interdisciplinary History, a History of American Sign Language, British Sign Language, and the overlap therein, Christopher Ely and Catherine Trevino. Brianna Granito, Cellular Neuroscience, Morphological Development of Neuronal Projection Growth During Early Cortical Network Formation, Eric Dubois. Alyssa Green, Biology and Cellular Neuroscience, Long-Term Impact on Brain Connectivity and Behavior in a Mouse Model of Prenatal Oxycodone Exposure, Catherine Trevino. Alberto Hernandez, International Studies, Restoring Political and Cultural Memory in Spain, the Impact of El Silencio de Otros, Carmen Canete Quesada. Baden Hughes, Economics, the Effects of Financial Giants in the Housing Markets, a study of the impact of private equity and institutional investors during the 2008 crisis. Candy Beckner-Tagan. Dina Ilario, Economics, the Fashion Industry and its impact on consumers' purchasing decisions. Candy Beckner-Tagan. Miriam Imran, Cellular Neuroscience, Digital Discourse on Alzheimer's Disease, a text analysis of cross-cultural sentiments in online communities. Jacqueline Fuchs. Peyton Johnston, Interdisciplinary Math Science, a comparison and preliminary analysis of sexual dimorphism of the gut microbiome in gopher tortoises, Gopherus polyphemus of southeastern Florida. Kelsey Burnett. Angie Gerardo, Political Science, Is Free Speech a Threat to Democracy? A review of Attack from Within. Keith Jakey. Joseph Kagan, Biological Chemistry, the central role of endothelial cells in various contexts of neuroinflammation. Chitra Chandrasekhar. Avinash Kanakam, Cellular Neuroscience, characterization of insular NOS1 neuron activity and non-homeostatic feeding behaviors. Bethany Stanhope. Madison Kaplan, Political Science, international theories explaining President Ronald Reagan's foreign policy in Afghanistan and its future implications. Bill O'Brien. Richard Tripp Kefauver, Transdisciplinary Visual Arts, Off the Old Grade Track, Pilot Animation, Dorothy Lime. Umad Khan, Political Science, the Impact of Social Media on Political Polarization, Timothy Steigenga. Marley Knox, Cellular Neuroscience and Biological Chemistry, tracing direct neuronal projections from the mouse perineal cortex to the hippocampus. Bob Stackman and Sarah Conan. Bria Kuntz, Marine Biology, cause and regionalization of sublethal injuries to juvenile giant manta rays, Mobula barostris, off the southeastern Florida coast. John Moore and Shana Rao. Loic Lebranche, Biological Chemistry, Fuel of the Future, toward biodiesel synthesis with metal-organic frameworks. Daniel DeLille. Nikki Liali, Data Analytics, exploring partial domination and graph theory. Jason Haditimi. Emerson Lee, Psychology, expanding meditation options, freeze frame and decision making. Laura Vernon. Samantha Leonard, Biology, genetic regulation of feeding behavior in Drosophila melanogaster. Kelsey Burnett. Ethan Levine, Law and Society, more harm than good, the unintended consequences of government regulation in the automotive industry. Keith Jakey. Nicole Litvinchuk, Behavioral Neuroscience, using the Million Mutation Project strains to identify candidate genes linked to abnormal amphetamine-induced behaviors. Lucia Carvelli. Allison McKenzie, Environmental Studies, survey and analysis of gopher tortoise demographics in range VIB of the Abacoa Greenway. John Moore and Bill O'Brien. Abigail Madanatz, Law and Society. Citizens United, the 2010 crisis in the marketplace of ideas. Mark Tunick. Addison Menofsky, Cellular Neuroscience, investigating the role of NET1 and motor exit point myelination. Catherine Trevino. Gabriella Maxey, Biological Chemistry, whole brain mapping of neuronal interleukin-1 type 1 receptor in the mouse brain, Samantha McGovern. Natasha Mayorga, biological chemistry and data analytics, applications of microscopy and neuroscience, a review of imaging and analysis techniques, Terrier Hill. Jasmine Morris, psychology, investigating the relationship between maternal mental health factors and mother-infant interactions, Nancy Jones. Nicholas Moy, biology, overcoming barriers to specialized eye care through intelligent screening, Tracy Mincer. Gwendolyn Murray, behavioral neuroscience and psychology, turning over a new leaf, veteran perspectives on mental health after wilderness therapy, Laura Vernon and David Sonali. Caesar Oneed, interdisciplinary math science, revolutionizing nuclear energy, the importance of small modular reactors in our future, Terrier Hill. Bailey Palmer, biological chemistry, the impact of resveratrol derivative resmeramorph-3 on Drosophila models of Alzheimer's disease, Terrier Hill. Isabella Passanisi, marine biology, coral survivorship in relation to the benthic interactions in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, Andia Chaz-Fonegra. Grace Patterson, law and society and English literature, off the shelves, Florida's book bans and the First Amendment, Mark Tunick. Emily Peraza, cellular neuroscience, man, cut the crop, effect of crop cropectomies on survival and behavior in Drosophila melanogaster, Eric Dubois and David Sonali. Gabriela Pereira Odicio, business and law and society, state-imposed silence, how anti-boycott laws conflict with corporate free speech, Mark Tunick. Ellie Fowler, international studies in Spanish, what happens to those who stay, the socioeconomic impacts of climate migration in Guatemala's dry corridor, Timothy Steiginga and Carmen Canete. Ava Pitts, marine biology, cetacean respiratory pathology, insights from strandings along the southeastern Florida coast, John Moore and Chris Strain. Katie Poquette, cellular neuroscience and biological chemistry, identifying novel genes implicated in the mechanism of action of amphetamine using mutated Canobrahabitus elegans from the Million Mutation Project, Lucia Carvelli. Serena Prim, psychology, early intervention for trauma, the SNAP approach, Shana Rao. Allison Reese, mathematics, predictive popularity possibility, predicting Netflix popularity in South Korea, Jason Haditimi. Lauren Reynolds, psychology and data analytics, linguistic analysis of user narratives and community-rated moral judgments on Reddit's r AML the asshole, Kevin Lanning. Elena Rumrill, cellular neuroscience, igniting serotonin, sources and receptors in the fire sponge, Tadania Ignis, Andia Chaz-Fonegra. Mark Salgado, political science, the South Florida Latino vote, a political powerhouse in transition, Mark Tunick. Martha Sanchez Montiel, neuroscience, microbiological consequences of oral lesions, implications for dental health and treatment strategies, Tracy Mincer. Gail Sanan, biology, from high ground to flooded terrain, vertebrates and gopher tortoise microhabitats, Kelsey Bernard and Tracy Mincer. Kimberly Schwager, biological chemistry, developing a microcontroller-based data acquisition system to measure pH, Eugene Smith. Calissa Setterberg, psychology. Remembering Fair, using the horror genre to explore emotional complexity and autobiographical memory, Shana Rao. Nicholas Schaefer, biological chemistry. Therapeutic targeting of MGLYR for treatment of major depressive disorder, Chitra Chandrasekhar. Sarah Singh, biology. Detection of Mycoplasma agassiz and Mycoplasma testudium and Abacoa's gopher tortoise aggregation, Kelsey Bernat and Tracy Mincer. Mackenzie Stow, psychology. Repeat consumption of media, how does it affect our stress? Laura Vernon. Karina Syke, history. Palace to Public, the revolutionary origins of museums in France and Russia, Chris Ely and Jacqueline Fuchs. Odette Terrazas, writing, Fragments of Meaning, Modernist Translation and its Impact on the Publishing Industry, Rachel Luria. Christian Testorf, Wildlife Conservation, Comparative Analysis of Vocal Performance in Male Bachman Sparrows, John Moore. Kaya Tomasic, Neuroscience, Investigating the Genetic Susceptibility of Cancer in Gopher Tortoises, Kelsey Bernat. Elena Tonkin, Biology, Anaplasma phagocytophilum's Effect on Gopher Tortoises of Southeast Florida, Kelsey Bernat. Edward Vorobiev, Business, the SEC's ESG disclosure mandate, a threat to investor protection and market competition, Keith Jakey. Fate Walls, English Literature, the new academic weapon, censorship of LGBTQ plus media from the youth, Miguel Vasquez. Sophia Vasilevsky, Cellular Neuroscience and Transdisciplinary Visual Arts, is PKG-mediated phosphorylation of SCRT at THR-276, required for modulation of SCRT trafficking by NOS/NO/cGMP pathway. And More Than Just Labels, Creating Comfort and Authenticity and Intersecting Otherness, Kathy Trevino, Randy Blakely, Tori Lemma, and Wairimun Mjambi. Tarek Wheeler, International Studies. The Role of Language Models in Supporting Dyslexic Students, Mark Tunick. India Williams, Business and Data Analytics, a predictive model for cryptocurrency, transaction fraud using logistic regression. Kayla Wen, Biology. Usage of immunohistochemistry and behavioral tests to gauge the role of cholesterol dysregulation in Alzheimer's disease, Tracy Mincer. Zakiah Word, Mathematics. The Musical Connection to Math, Ward McGovern. All right, I think I still got my voice. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the class of 25. Well done, well done. Now, at this time, I would like to introduce one of the more than 1,600 alumni you will be joining today, Mr. Joe Colucci. Now, wait. Joe, before you come up, I do got to say a few words about you. You know, and Joe, he's really eager, as you can tell. But seriously, what can I say about Joe? You know, one thing I know for sure, he's definitely not your average Joe. Now, over the past 5 years, I have introduced the alumni speaker as a trailblazer, and today I have the honor of using that specific word figuratively and literally. Joe graduated from the very first cohort, the class of 2003, earning his bachelor's degree with a concentration in psychology. I had the pleasure of working with Joe last summer when we hosted the Trailblazers reunion on this campus, bringing together the class of 03 and 04. And it was a surreal, refreshing experience for me to see so many alumni who, how shall I put it delicately, looked a little more seasoned and advanced in their years, and except for Joe. He hadn't changed at all. Now, after leaving FAU, Joe went to launch his career in the beverage alcohol industry. And to say the least, he makes me a little jealous. Later, much later, in January of 2023, Joe moved on from his role as a divisional vice president with the Campari Group to co-found his own spirits brand, Munion's Pawpaw. Anybody ever had Munion's? Yeah? Okay. Well, although Joe may call himself a Jersey boy, he's a true son of Jupiter, supporting local charities like Friends of Jupiter Beach, Place of Hope, and the Historical Society of Palm Beach County. I can't wait for you to hear how this great invention called the Wilkes Honors College not only got started in 1999 because of Joe, but how it was also the place where Joe met his wife, Erin. So now I want you to put your hands together and give it up for the one, the only, the magnificent Mr. Joe Colucci.
Wow, that was quite an introduction. Well, good morning, and first off, congratulations. You guys have been busting your humps for the last several years, and you deserve it. This is a huge accomplishment, and be proud and celebrate it. So I'm up here as the alumni speaker, and as Dean Perry mentioned, my claim to fame is that I was part of the Trailblazers, the first class. When I came here to tour the campus, before I started in 1999, there was nothing here. There was a lot of, hey, this building will be over here, and that building will be over there. Like, will it be built when I'm here? Maybe. So it was a pretty big leap of faith. But I gave a speech at my graduation in 2003, and it must have landed pretty well because I've been riding that wave for 22 years. And Dean Perry was nice enough to ask me to speak again. So being that it's 2025, when I said I was going to do this speech, my wife Erin, who I met here, now I'm regretting not putting more in the speech about her but Dr. Lanning introduced us. She said, hey, you should try and use ChatGPT to help. And I immediately thought, you've seen a lot of my original speeches. You mustn't have been that impressed. But I put in a few prompts, and what it kicked out was really good. So if you want an inspirational speech that's not this one, feed ChatGPT and you'll be impressed. I thought, well, maybe you actually don't need me, but I was going to go ahead and give what ChatGPT and AI can't do, which is actual personal experience. So wisdom born from what I've learned over the years. 3 things I want you to keep in mind as you start your next chapter. Those 3 things are humility, time, and people. Humility. You've just completed a world-class education, and I mean that. This program ranks with the best anywhere. It's no small feat. You've done it clearly amongst exceptional people, and you should be proud. You're elite, but stay humble because you still have a ton to learn. Let me give you a recent example. So Dean Perry asked me to speak at that 25th anniversary gala, And, he pumped me up, asked me to do it, wanted me to say, yeah, sure. Made me feel really good. And then I gave the speech to my kids and my wife, and they were like, Dad, you're going to wow them. Then I get there, and I'm feeling really confident. And I sit down, and one of your fellow students, Isabella Zuniga, she gives the speech before me. And, I think she's a sophomore. Like, oh, man, I'm looking around the room. This is pretty intimidating. I hope she does pretty well. Then she gets up there with a movie star presence, and she delivers this confident speech with the confidence of a primetime news anchor. I'm like, all right, well, that's a tough act to follow. So I give my speech, no major flaws, And after me, Ryan Serhant gets up there with his TV polish and his Oscar host personality and just crushes it. And at this point, I'm kind of looking at Dean Perry like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I don't know, the competition was supposed to be this tight, but it was very humbling. And the point is, no matter how good you are or how good you think you are, there's always somebody out there who's going to raise the bar. And that's not a threat. That's a gift. If you're constantly staying humble and you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to improve you, that's the way to learn. So here's another story that my older brother told me. When he's had a successful career in the Marine Corps, the government, law enforcement, but when he was a young cop, probably right about your age, he was at an accident scene or an event, something like that, where there was an older senior police officer and he was directing traffic. It's a mundane job. It's not the glamorous part by any stretch, but it's important. And he noticed this guy was exceptionally good at it. So he went over to him and said, hey, man, you're awesome at this. Do you have any advice for a young cop that's, learning the job? And the guy was floored. Nobody had ever noticed, and nobody had ever asked him that. But it turns out that he took a lot of pride in that particular task. So he went on to retire, and my brother went on to have a decorated career. But the point is, without humility, my brother never would have asked that question. And I know he's done similar things throughout his entire career. If you stay humble, you're going to grow more than anyone around you. So time. Your relationship with time is about to change. 10 years ago, you were just a kid. 3, 4 years ago when you started, probably feels like a lifetime. Soon, that's not going to feel like a lifetime. Case in point, so recently I'm in my laundry room, sitting in front of my washing machine, and I'm just start yelling, why does the spin cycle not work? This thing is brand new. From the echoes in the background, I hear my wife say, we bought that 7 years ago. That might land more with the parents, but I promise you, 7 years ago feels like nothing now. Right now, graduate school, career ladders, big goals, they might seem like they'll take forever. But the fact is, it's going to move fast. So stay in the moment, be present, and focus on what's in front of you. I've managed a lot of younger people over my career, and the biggest issue I see, they're so focused on moving up and moving to the next step that they're not embracing the role they're in. If you pour yourself into the work that's in front of you, and you truly try to master it, you'll move up faster and with more confidence. Every stage of life has value, so don't miss what's in front of you for what's on the horizon. So people, yes, AI is getting smarter. Self-driving cars are going to be here. You're fully integrated into technology, and that's only going to increase. But I still can't imagine a life in which a human connection doesn't matter. So here's something that I've learned. Technology will help you remember birthdays, and it's great to like a comment or post a comment. But here's what matters more. Send a thank you note, show up for a wedding, attend a funeral, call a friend who's struggling. When the phone calls feel the most difficult to make, and you say to yourself, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't think I can make that call. It's incredibly awkward. That's when it matters the most. Just pick up the phone, say, hey, I'm thinking about you. If you need anything, I'm here for you. I promise you that people usually don't remember what you say, but they will remember that you showed up. So start doing that now, because that took me a while to learn. I have no doubt that all of you will be successful. You've continued the tradition that we started as trailblazers. You're incredibly smart, incredibly driven, and I gotta say, incredibly good looking. You'll attain goal after goal. But no matter what field you enter, remember these three things. Stay humble, stay present, and be connected. So I'm going to leave you with one final story. After 20 years in the liquor industry, as Dean Perry mentioned, I started my own brand 2 years ago. When I was deciding whether to leave the comfort of this nice, cushy corporate job, I was scared, I was nervous. So I reached out to a mentor of mine, and I sat down with him as I was wavering back and forth on what to do. He asked me two questions. First, he said, if you take this leap of faith and you fail, how confident are you that you could get back to this position that you're in? I thought about it a minute and said, I might have to take a couple steps back, but I could get back here. He said, okay. Now picture yourself on your deathbed. You've had a safe, successful career. Are you going to regret not taking that shot? Yeah. He said, well, then go do it. And I did. And I was able to do it because I learned to embrace humility, because I had people around me to support me, and because I knew that now was the time. So now's your time. Stay humble, live in the minute, live in the moment, and never stop connecting with the people you love. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you, Joe, for your inspiring words and charisma. Well, my fellow Owls, this concludes the proceedings of our medallion ceremony. I would like to ask our guests in the audience to remain seated until the graduates walk out for a group photo. Now, students, don't forget, graduates, that the commencement in the Boca Raton campus begins at 5 p.m. You will need to be there by 4 p.m. That's your last assignment. Now, I want you to go forth, class of 25, and rock the house.
your hats off. No, okay, you stand in the middle. You stand in the middle.